In the grim darkness of the far future, there is only war. But Warhammer 40k isn't just about war. It's legends, betrayal, and some of the most brutal stories in sci-fi. This is Space Tank, and welcome to Warhammer Lore. And today, I want to talk about the Salamander. In a galaxy where space marines are basically seen as monsters, there's one chapter that still chooses to be human. So, the Salamanders started out as the 18th Legion of the Space Marine, back during the Great Crusade. Like all the legions, they were made from the gene seed of a lost Primarch. But even back then, they were kinda different. Other legions had their thing: speed, tactics, overwhelming force. The 18th Legion, they just endured. They got sent into the worst war zones, the longest campaigns, basically all the jobs no one else wanted. And somehow, they still held the line. Before Vulkan showed up, they were called the Dragon Warriors. And honestly, they were tough, but kinda all over the place. Their commanders struggled to control them, not because they were undisciplined, but because they didn't really have a clear purpose. They'd often fight to the last man even when pulling back would have made way more sense. And yeah, that led to some heavy losses. Then Vulkan enters the picture, and everything changes. Because Vulkan wasn't just a warrior, he was a creator. This is a guy who didn't just conquer, he built things. He grew up on Nocturne, which is basically a nightmare planet. Volcanoes everywhere, ash storms, and creatures that could possibly 1v1 a tank. But the people there didn't survive because they were the strongest. They survived because they stuck together. And Vulkan learned that early. Now here's the interesting part. Vulkan wasn't born into some royal family or anything like that. He was found as a child, alone, on Nocturne, which by the way is a place that kills normal humans in hours. He gets found by a blacksmith named Nabel. And instead of freaking out, this guy just raises him. And that choice, that mattered a lot. Kind of like how the Kents took in Superman. Yeah. Because Vulkan grows up learning the Forge, learning patience, precision, purpose, that turns into his whole philosophy. If you're going to create something, you need to understand it. And if you're going to protect something, you actually need to care about it. That mindset basically defines the Salamanders forever. So eventually, the Emperor of Mankind shows up, you know, that guy. But Vulkan doesn't just kneel immediately, because at that exact moment, Nocturne gets under attack. Raiders show up, people are in danger, and Vulkan doesn't hesitate. He fights, not for glory, not for conquest, just to protect his people. And when the Emperor approaches him, Vulkan's not impressed. He basically says, if you want me, then fight with me. I know, heresy, right? And the Emperor actually does it. They fight side by side. And that's when Vulkan sees it. Not just power, but purpose. The Emperor isn't hiding in the background. He's right there in the fight. And that's what wins Vulkan over. Not orders, not authority, but belief. So, when Vulkan takes over the Legion, everything changes. They're not just fighting to win anymore, they're fighting to protect. Civilians actually matter now. Evacuations matter. Saving lives matter. And that changes how they operate. They're slower, less efficient, by Imperial standards at least, but way more human. And it's not just their mindset that changes, it's how they look. Now recruited from Nocturne, the Salamanders start to reflect their world. Jet black skin, glowing red eyes. They literally look like they've been forged in fire. And yeah, they're intimidating. But underneath all that, they're probably the most human space marines out there. In combat, they're all about close range, flamers, meltas, anything that burns. They don't just beat enemies, they erase them. And if anything survives, that's what the Thunderhammers are for. What really makes them different, though, is how they live. Most Space Marines are distant, almost like gods. Salamanders? Nah, they just go back home. They live among regular people on Nocturne, protect them directly, and every one of them is also a craftsman. They build their own gear, maintain it. Everything they carry actually means something. Then the Horus Heresy happens. Try saying that 3 times. And everything goes wrong. On Istvan 5, during the Dropside Massacre, they got betrayed. They thought reinforcements were coming. Instead, the traitors turned on them. And it's just a slaughter. The Salamanders were nearly wiped out. Vulkan gets captured by Conrad Kurz, and what happens next is just brutal. Kurz keeps killing him over and over and over, just to see if he stays dead. He doesn't, because Vulkan can't die, and honestly, that just makes it worse. After the war, the Salamanders are basically shattered. Their numbers are super low. Their gene seed isn't easy to reproduce, so they don't bounce back like the other legions. They barely have successor chapters. There are rumors like the Black Dragons, but nothing super clear. So what you're left with is a small, tight-knit force. They're not the biggest, they're not the fastest, and they're definitely not the most famous. But when humanity is in danger, they're the ones who stay. They don't run, they protect. And yeah, that's why the Salamanders are honestly one of the most unique Space Marine chapters. If you enjoyed this video, hit that like and subscribe. It really helps out smaller channels like mine. Appreciate you watching, and I'll catch you on the next one. Peace!